Hello traders, this is Alex with the StockMatrix program. Let's do a quick review. We're not quite halfway through the year since we started on January 6th on this StockMatrix program. So we're kind of coming up on a mid-anniversary date for us. Here is my X account, which is kind of the standard intro here. I kind of show you that, and I post things, mainly the trades. You can see these are the 4 trades that we had back on June 3rd. Kind of came into that equinox, right? We'll talk about that here a little bit. Let's go to the portfolio. Oh, by the way, that's CBOT Man 33 is my handle. CBOT Man 33. The portfolio has gone up. We're about at 50 grand, not quite, a little shy. Started with the fictitious 150 grand, which was a standard Google. I Googled it, and it was 150 grand as their standard account size, so I put that in there. Again, we're trading options, so it's not as important, right? We don't need all that equity, but again, for percentage purposes, we want to know where we're at. Right now, if we closed everything out and quit right here, it'd be 15% for a half a year. So that's or less than half a year. So that's pretty good. I think it could do better, but we started on the absolute low of this. January 6th was a low, so I took a loss on every trade that I put on because I had to go with the trend. So that started it off with a little unbalanced to a negative there. We've had 84. Again, these fees that I charge is $1 per trade. So I know I've had 84 trades, including the 17 options that I have on currently. All right. These are the trades that we took off. Google, Lin, BK, and Cintas. Looks like we made a little bit. Coinbase was a loser the one before. So, we're just kind of, we've taken off $21,000 worth of profit. They can't take that away, right? Option, once it's in your pocket, you own it. So we're up 7%. Now, if everything turned around right now, we'd be 8% for the year up. So just kind of keeping track. Let's go to the StockMatrix program. This is the statistical page. You can see we really don't have any annualers coming in today, which again, today is June 26th in the morning, about a little before 8 in the morning. So the markets aren't open yet. So, but the 27th has a few, but nothing today. We're in quite a few of these 45ers that I have listed over here. These are the cycles of 45, 90, 135, 180. A GAN thing, right? All this stuff here is GAN, WD GAN. So interesting. I kind of think that's from the lows, which, basically some of them were post-COVID, a few were pre-COVID, where the lows are actually coming in. Let's go to the trades. You can see, again, this is the stock part, the stock trade part. If we had 100 shares of each one of these, right, you'd be looking at $468,000. So that's a lot to just buy 100 shares of 17 select stocks. Currently, we're at $41,000 of the positions we have on right now. If we got stopped out of every trade, again, we're not trading the stocks, but if we were, we'd be a loser of $522 if we got stopped out of every one of these. So again, that's what these points you see down here are. Now we have flipped this thing from a positive to a negative. We are down. We are long-term up on 8, long-term down on 9, right, or 17 select stock. Same way with the short-term, 8 up and 9 down. So again, we went from every trade being a bull to kind of a mixed bag, which I kind of like actually a little more. Oops, dang it, sorry. Let's go to, this is kind of a private thing, right? I mean, I just do this, so it's not real accurate because I do it several times a day, and sometimes I don't do it for a week, but it gives me an idea. We're at about $468,000 of total value of the index, right? The stocks that we have. So 100 shares. The highest it's been, I have it highlighted here, was back in December. That was before we implemented the program on January 6th, but I started working on it 6 months ahead of time. I went back a ways and kind of prepped for it. So anyway, that was the highest we were. Now we made a high and we got in at the low on January 6th. So here's when we got in. It was at 445,000. So had a low of 372. So we did pick up some of that once we spun long. And now let's review the trades real quick. I don't want to get too deep in some of that stuff. It doesn't really matter, right? Again, that's just kind of the history. But you can see right now we are short Coke, or got puts on, right, if we're short. We got Google, we're short, Tesla short, Lin, ED, and Adobe short, BK short, Procter & Gamble short, and Cintas short. So now some of these are on the bubble. We could get back long, so we'll look at the charts right now. Here's NVIDIA. Again, this is my StockMatrix chart, and the reason why I'm doing this today instead of the weekend is yesterday at 10:33 a.m. was the quarter moon. So we ended this, and I do it at the end of the day. I don't want to go through an hourly chart, so I just ended it on the close. Our stops got moved to here now. We kind of, this is where we got stopped in, right? So we're definitely locking in a decent profit. Here's Meta, same situation, got in here, moved the stops to here, kind of a secondary event. Doesn't look too bad. Of course, NVIDIA made a new high, so we finally busted it out. Now, we'll see if it's it should just fly, right? Now, again, I'm afraid that everybody's got NVIDIA in their portfolio, so to make new highs and fly is probably not the logical thought process. Here's Coke, kind of struggling. Of course, it was a safe play, right? So again, that diamond pattern that we're on is just hanging tough. Here's Google. Again, busted this. We got short down here on the fly. It's closed against us quite a bit. Quite a bit of risk, right? So again, even if you were doing the 100 shares instead of I would have been really confident in saying, hey, don't go short the 100 shares here. Let's buy puts instead because of the amount of risk, right? So, but that's again, that's what happens when the market is again. What is a correction, right? A true correction in a stock or the indexes, it has to bust something. Well, it has to get people going the other direction. Well, the correction definitely did that so far. Here's Microsoft, one of the bulls. We did move the stop, from here to here. So, and we got long down here, so a good trade for sure. Unless, gaps against us, but even then we're locking in a pretty decent profit. This Amazon kind of had a good close, had a poor performance in the first part of the week, and then closed higher on the moon basis prior to the other one. So a higher close is pretty bullish. Now our stop got moved to here, so I like that stop. Nothing wrong with that at all. Here's Apple, again, a weak stick. Of course, Tesla might come out with a phone, so it's making people probably bail a little bit. I don't know if it's true or not, or it's rumors. It doesn't matter. They're doing it. Here's Tesla. Speaking of, our stop got moved down to here. It was here. Don't really like that stop too much, but hey, it's the system. It don't care about what I think. Every time I talk, if I say something in my opinion, it's my opinion, and it's probably going to be wrong. The StockMatrix program does its thing, right? If the line gets broke and it goes short, it goes short. I don't care what I think. Here's Lynn. Again, you can see the stops are still up here. We got short here. It closed steady on the solar eclipse, right? So this poke was kind of a weird one. Of course, it had the bear trap, and now we had a bull trap. So if you'd have traded the bull trap like we talked about in several of our videos, you would have probably been out already and made your double or triple on your value. Here's ED. Again, a weak stick. Of course, it was a bull when everything else was a bear. It was a counter trend, safe play, right? So it makes sense when NVIDIA and them are making new highs, ED should be making new lows. So that's logical to me. Here's Adobe, a stop up here. Hit this one-to-one trend line, from that secondary event high. Now we're hitting the one-to-one, went through it by a smidge. Here is the solar eclipse, which will probably be resistance next week. I could see it taking that out a little bit, or even getting back in this next moon period, getting back up into here. Still be weak a little bit. Now it'll be trend up on the short term if we would do that, but the long term and where we got in are still down. Here is IBM, one of the bulls. Kind of a weird creeper thing, but the stops did get moved to here. We got in here, so definitely making a smidge profit there. Here's BK, Bank of Magellan. One of them that we got snapped in on the short side, back on the one-to-one trend line, and up she went. Now, of course, this trend line will probably be, I'll pull it over to here. But you can see that we have an outside event the previous moon period, and then we had another outside event to the downside, but closing mid-range, but closing lower. So if I had to guess, that is probably an appropriate. I would assume that we're going to go down here somewhere, probably back to the solar eclipse somewhere in here in this time frame. Makes sense to me. Again, kind of got a trap too, so I don't know. That's just my opinion. Again, we had a good trade, so we made money where we got stopped in at or out of. But this is weird. A weird trade. Again, probably a little overvalued in these areas, and probably a little undervalued if we'd ever get down to that area. Procter and Gamble, again, one of the safe plays. They're negatively in the news, which negative news is good news. Volatility is what we like. I would assume the stop moving here is insignificant. But I'd rather keep it up new highs if I was trading actual shares. Now the options, it don't matter to us. We got to find a place to get in or out of, right? So, solar eclipse is right here, which I believe was resistance. Once we start trading above that point, though, I'm going to get kind of bullish then, right? Because then all this is a bottom. Now, right now, we don't know. Here's the diamond, JPM, new highs. Finally, it took a half a year, dang near a half a year, not quite. So. That's new all-time highs on JP Morgan. And the stops got moved from here to here. So, I don't know. I think we're slightly profitable. We got in on April 23rd. So, I don't have it marked for some reason. We got in here, I guess. Or no, right here. So I don't know, somewhere in here. So we got a small profit, not much. So, and every week, next week it'll stay the same. So we're not going to move the stop up anything significant for a while. Here's Coinbase, new highs. Not in all practical purposes, that's new contract highs, but it is not. The high was made on the opening of this trade. Well, I don't have it on here. I guess I don't get my data. I'll look at it on the daily when we review it. But you can see that new highs for all practical purposes. We had an outside event here with follow through, right? So that's with a gap, right? Because we closed here, traded here. So that's important. And it reacted positively, which is important. We closed the new highs, which is important. So I have a hard time being a negative Nancy on Coinbase based on the action that we've seen. Let's go to Cintas. Again, we've talked about this back here that was going to make new highs. It just takes a while. And I keep mentioning do not buy strength. So if you'd have bought new highs, you'd have been out so far. Now you buy a pullback. This might be good enough. You have to buy something where else getting stopped out. The system is a prime example. System gets short, you could maybe buy it there. We did close lower than the previous close on the moon periods, three in a row. So it leaves a little negative taste in my mouth. A bull trap, right, which was an easy trade. And supports down here probably, somewhere in here, this 1-to-1 going up from the lows, and also this solar eclipse. Somewhere down here will be support, which is a significant break. And both solar eclipses, the last one and the previous one, are right in that area. So that makes sense that we could break back to that. Now let's look at the daily. All right, let's look at the video. NVDA. You can see the new highs here with a gap, stronger close, two gaps actually. So something changed positively. Now, of course, the 66 market days, the matrix, right, and the whole premise on the name of the website is July 3rd. So that's next weekend or whenever. So I'm kind of friendly, probably into that. And then caution for sure on everything. Really no annuals to speak of coming up in the video. Here's Meta. You can see we kind of up there in the secondary event. I got to assume, again, just my opinion, that we'll probably pop a new high. Why leave it, right? When you got other markets making new highs. I don't know how Meta makes its money, but advertising or whatever, right? So I'm sure it's a pretty good platform for us older folk who now use it. The younger folk don't even know what Facebook is. Here's Coke. Again, that diamond pattern, it kind of fell apart, and now it's just in a congestive pattern, which, what's the trend? Well, the trend is sideways. So, you buy new lows and you sell, little highs, right? I mean, that's just the trading part of it. Now, if you're trying to do a long-term trade, it's pretty tough, I think, on Coke right now. Here's Google, the dog with fleas. I mentioned it last few videos. If you're, got money, you don't buy Google because it looks undervalued. You don't buy silver versus gold because it's undervalued. Don't buy the pooch with fleas. Don't buy the dog. And again, prime example here. This went down. NVIDIA, Meta, Microsoft, they all went up, right? So anyway, well, here's Microsoft. Speaking of, pop new highs again. We got some annuals coming in here, as you can see. So more next week. We know July 3rd is the matrix count, so it'll be interesting to see where we come in on that. And I think it happens to coincide with all this data, right? So could be a high, could be a break back into it. Again, you don't know. Here's Amazon, kind of a congestive little, I don't know, it's kind of a weak stick, right? It's not up near its highs like some of the strong ones. Again, an outside day down almost, closing lower, feels weak to me. Now again, it could pop it out, have an outside event. Again, just because I'm saying it looks weak doesn't mean you can't make pop out highs, because again, we know that's where all the stops are. Here's Apple, the dog, truly the dog with sick fleas. Again, kind of just holding down. Again, some stuff coming into the end of this month, so it'll be kind of interesting to see how Apple closes at the end of the month. Here's Tesla, kind of just there, right? I mean, definitely a trader. I like that it's in the news a lot with Elon. People hate him or love him. I don't really care as long as he causes volatility. That's all I care about. I love him if he creates volatility. That's why I like him and Trump and a few other people. Diamond, they all create volatility when they speak. Here's Lynn. Again, kind of a weird ass trade. We had that magical bear trap. Immediately made big money. And then now we made the bull trap up here and probably would have double, tripled your money pretty quick. Just kind of hanging though, right? It's a weird, like it's overvalued a little bit. It looks like one, if it starts making new highs, you definitely don't buy strength, right? It's telling you not to buy strength. Whatever the end results are, do not buy strength, or do not sell weakness either, by the way. Here's ED, one of the safe plays that turned into now a bear. Makes sense, right? We broke the trend line, broke the up. We got a trap action going here. Now it did not have a trap up here. So it doesn't, in my book, doesn't, for every action there's an equal but opposite reaction. We did not have a trap. So I would expect more of a congestive bottom like this, month long. I guess it's a month long, but again with the trap, which we didn't have up there. So now these time frames from the low are getting a little old and long in the tooth. 121 will be our next one. Again, sequences of 11, right, from the low. The matrix 55 over from the high was this gap down event. So a little negative. Now again, people go, oh, it's the bottom. Well, to me, the action is you always go with the gaps if you can, right? Here was a gap down. You go with the gaps if you can, if it makes some logical sense. This was a gap down. Now this one had a gap down but didn't close bad. So you go, ooh, maybe I shouldn't take that one. Well, absolutely not, right? This one closed bad, so I'm assuming that the least path of resistance on ED is to the downside. Here's Adobe, kind of a break back, just a slug. Let's see. Let's just draw a parallel. Yeah, right on it. So you can see this is kind of the parallel channel. Can't remember if this was mathematical. It was. So this is a 1 by 1 or $1. I believe $1. $1 per day down, and this is a parallel $1 day down off this secondary triple event. So let me see. Let me go out one more on the cycle of that high. That don't really affect anything for a while. Now again, we got to remember all these charts. If you go back through and watch it again, the equinox was right in here, right? So like on IBM was a low. Now the summer equinox is the longest day of the year. Pretty significant if you're a guy. Now today, what's today? Today is June 25th, or yesterday. No, today, Thursday is June 25th. That's a numerology thing. 25. Now next month will be a little better because that numerology is 777, right? 07 the month, and then 25, 2025. They combine 777. Anyway, so you're looking at numerology events for. I don't really trade on that stuff, but man, there's a lot of people that do, and maybe it's a psyche thing. You look at the calendar, don't even think about it, but in the back of your mind, it's programmed into you to be, get volatile, get cautious, do crazy things, right? Again, it's a weird thing. Again, who created the calendar, by the way? Here's BK, just kind of a chopper, pop new highs, got them smashed, got us in here. So now our stops are over here. Just a weird ass trade. It looks like it's overvalued to me. Logical place to go would be back to the solar eclipse down in here, but fill the gap or something. Somewhere down in there. Here's Procter & Gamble. Kind of a dog with fleas, but it definitely trades, so you can definitely trade it. The Matrix probably hasn't made much money on Procter & Gamble. I'm just guessing. I haven't got to go back. Just too much up and down. Which again is good for the traders, right? Sucks for long-term programmers like myself. Here's the diamond, JPM, pop new highs finally. This was the 19th when we had our previous highs, and the 19th was right here, right on the equinox, and then that equinox the next day was an outside event with the gap the next day and a higher close, so definitely positive for sure on JPM. Coinbase, a whopper popper, again, heck of a pop. Again, I'd rather trade Bitcoin, but I couldn't really find one that had options, so I went with Coinbase, which is kind of a roundabout way to trade Bitcoin, but obviously it kind of follows, so we'll see. The history showed me it kind of followed, so that's why I went with Coinbase. I just don't know of anything that trades that people would be comfortable trading. You'd have to go and create an account and some off-book deal to trade options on Bitcoin. I just don't want to do that. That sounds too risky even for me. So if Coinbase follows, that's great. We're just looking to prove how these options work, for one, and two, using a system, whatever one you want to use, create your own whatever, but again, your own algorithm, right? Figure out something not too complicated and go with it and put it down on a spreadsheet, and you'll be understandably comfortable because you did the homework. Now my system works, and I'm proving that it works. I just created it because that's the stuff I use, the GAN stuff I use. So anyway, here, interesting on this trend line on Coinbase that hit this high. I extended it and we hit it up here. So it'll be interesting to see, it's not really, it's a little over $4 a day. Pretty fast, right? So it'll be interesting to see what we do if we pop it up. So again, the high was 369, so $4 a day. Today's high should be 374, 35, somewhere up there. We'll kind of hit it again. Again, $4 a day. So again, if it waits a couple days to pop new highs in, it gets more expanded, right? So interesting, right? The speed line. Now, of course, you can draw this speed line off of this low now, since again, that'll be the parallel channel, a 4x1 almost parallel channel. Interesting. Let's go to Cintas. Again, poked a new high like we talked back in here if you were watching my videos this whole time. And again, like I said, don't buy strength. Definitely made it pop to high, had a trap, and it failed. So, and it acted weak into this. You can see that today we have a from that previous high up here, the 26th, right? That's this X. Again, I'll be not doing those after this because we popped a new high. Now the sixth high matched the seventh low here, so now we'll probably, this will be the new reference point, which is, so we'll have several things on the 6th, 7th, depending if that's a weekend or not. So from here on out, we know that there's going to be some definite power behind the 6th, 7th zone for at least a while. And of course, here on Cintas, the end of the year was the low, but again, this is the 2nd. This next stick is the holiday and the end of the New Year's. This day here was the 6th, so missed the 6th missed this low by a day. So again, pretty important no matter how you look at it. 6th, 7th, right? So now the secondary event was the 9th, so that kind of is important as well for future stuff, right? I mean, that's all you're looking for is an angle, and it definitely tells you to be cautious or be more aggressive on the 6th, 7th if it's kind of gelling with what you want to do. All right, I'm done. Thank you. Everybody have a great rest of your trading week, and we'll see you on the flip side.